Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, your guest co-host, Scrap MMA. Today, we're going to talk about UFC Vegas 106, Michael Morales versus Gilbert Burns. And my friends, it's going down this Saturday night live at the Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. You got Gilbert Burns, who not only has been paying his dues in two weight classes, guys fought for a title. He gave Khamzat Chimaev his toughest fight. Some incredible no-gi jiu-jitsu, if not amongst the best in the UFC welterweight division. But he's taking on a phenom in Michael Morales, still in his 20s. He's 13 years younger. He's got an 8-inch reach advantage. But Gilbert is no slouch. So without further ado, let's get right down to business, because in this main event, we got Gilbert Burns. He's 22-8, taking on Michael Morales, who's 17-0. Currently, they got it. Michael Morales minus 820. The comeback on Gilbert plus 570. Scrap. I mean, I know we all got immense respect for Gilbert Burns, true badass. And Michael Morales, he's one of these emerging welterweight prospects. Screw that, contenders, really making a name for himself. You love to see it. How do you kind of view this matchup, especially in relation to how they're calling it a mismatch?
Well, I didn't know the odds were this crazy. I didn't expect Morales to be this big of a favorite. I feel like making Burns this big of an underdog is almost disrespectful. But at the same time, I can see why Morales is a big favorite. Burns coming on, I think he's on a 3-fight skid. He's only getting older. No one can beat age. And then you got Morales, who's looking better and better each fight. His grappling's evolved. He's getting a better jab. He's getting a deeper tool bag. And overall, he's improving at a rapid speed.
So, were you at that fight that's behind you, that poster?
Nah, only fight I ever went to was UFC 310? What was the John Jones Stipe one?
No, the reason I ask is because, Volkanovski Holloway 3, legendary fight. But
yeah,
why the fuck would you want Adesanya and Cannonier on your wall, bro? That was one of the worst fights I've ever seen.
I have to cut the top half out. That fight was a absolute sleeper. I tried to put one of my friends on watching that card, and it didn't go over too well.
Maybe Photoshop Kelvin Gastelum where Cannonier is, so then you got two legendary fights on.
That fight was awful. Izzy did not do much there at all.
Yeah, but listen, guys, I think that Michael Morales truly is a phenom. I mean, he comes into Contender Series, I think, 22, 23, and you already see the physical attributes that he brings to the table. Apparently, wrestling wise, don't quote me on it, but wasn't he he tried out for the Ecuadorian Olympic team? Not that really means much, because I know the wrestling scene ain't quite developed there, but still, this guy can grapple his ass off. And what I really like that he's developed is he's fighting behind a nice jab. For someone as young as he is, he's mature, and he's going out there against really respectable competition that gets you into the conversation of fighting those top 15 guys, eventually fighting those top 10 guys. You have to get through, the Trevin Giles, the Jake Matthews, the Max Griffins, and the way he handled them was very admirable. Then he gets that step up against Neil Magny, and I know the finish was kind of weird with that spin, but he got the job done. Now you earn that opportunity against someone as battle-tested as Gilbert Burns, because I got to tell you what, I don't care if Gilbert Burns is almost 40. You still have to be on a certain level to beat Gilbert Burns. And let me tell you this right here, right now, in Half the Battle, Scrap. I know I'm not breaking any ground saying that I think a minus 820 favorite is good enough to beat Gilbert Burns, but I really do. Look, there might be some concerns early, maybe an early back take, maybe Gilbert lands an early bomb, but I just think that as this fight progresses, the youth, the 13-year age gap, the 8-inch reach advantage, and just the fact that Gilbert has been talking about retirement. He knows he ain't fighting for no title ever again. And Morales is on he's on the fast track. So yeah, I'm gonna go Morales as well. Now, co-main event of the evening in the light heavyweight division, we got Paul Craig. He's 17-9-1, taking on Rodolfo Bellato, who's 12-2-1. Interesting how they both got draws in the UFC. Currently, they got it. Rodolfo Bellato minus 550. The comeback on Paul Craig is plus 400. Scrap. Listen, I understand that, Paul Craig's getting up there in age and that obviously his best days are behind him. Plus, with his very limited, I don't want to say limited because obviously on the ground, there's nothing limited about that damn triangle. Ask Ankalaev, ask Jamal Hill about that armbar, ask Nikita Krylov, ask Kennedy and Nzechukwu. There's nothing limited about that. All I'm saying is, if those things don't happen, what's his plan B? And the thing about Bellato, though, dude, if you watch his last fight with Jimmy Crute, in that first round, he's got this body lock takedown, right? And he's about to hit it, and he pulls Crute on top of him in the full mount. I'm like, oh my God, Rodolfo. And Scrap, I got to talk in these terms when we're talking about a minus 550 favorite. I can't gloss over little things like that, because what happens if Paul Craig gets in full mount against this guy? Not saying the fight's going to be over shortly after, but what I am saying is that those are the spots you don't want Paul Craig to be in. So I think that Rodolfo Bellato, I'm pretty damn sure he's a Nogueira black belt. So, he's very educated on the mat as well. And to his credit, Jimmy Crute is the guy that submitted Paul Craig. So it's not like, some bum mounted him or anything like that. But ultimately, I do think that Bellato is going to be able to kind of chop Craig down with calf kicks. And if Craig wants to pull guard, I doubt that Bellato, engages. And I just see Bellato kind of roughing him up a little bit and breaking him down the stretch. So, yeah, again, not breaking ground with a minus 550, but I'm going to pick Rodolfo Bellato in this one. How about you?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is a light heavyweight bout. And
you're correct.
Craig's going back up, so that's only going to give him a bigger disadvantage in the grappling department. And then we just saw his most recent fight with Bo Nickel. His striking looked awful. Obviously, Bo Nickel's striking was just exposed against RDR. And Paul Craig got outstruck by him for 3 rounds. So,
yeah, has anyone ever said that to you before?
What, do I look like Kaya Sakura or what?
That's what JJ say. I thought that was hilarious. Maybe the glasses, I don't know. Hey, I dig those glasses, man. Those glasses are dope. This is the American Asakura.
The American Asakura, yeah. We don't even have the same hair color, and I'm probably about 6 or 7 inches taller than him, but yeah, I'll go with it.
Yes, sir. So keep going.
Paul Craig, we just saw him get beat by, was it Brendan Allen on the ground too? And yeah, his jiu-jitsu is dangerous, but his heyday is over. And while Bellato is not the highest level competition, I feel like you just got to go with him just because he's done better in his past couple fights, and that's a huge thing, the momentum factor.
No questions asked. So, featured bout. I'm very excited about this one. So, in the lightweight division, we got 2 featherweights moving up to lightweight. We got Super Sodiq Yusuff. He's 13-4, taking on Mairon, the legend Santos, who's 15-1. Currently, they got it. Mairon Santos minus 130. The comeback on Sodiq Yusuff is plus 110. So, longtime listeners of Half the Battle know that I've always been super high on Sodiq Yusuff, and at one point I thought that this guy could go on to be a future top 5 guy. Now he made it to the top 10, not quite the top 5, and he's had some incredible fights along the way. And at his best, I mean, this guy's a marauder, goes forward without a care in the world, swinging big bombs, big calf kicks. You take him down, he's popping right back up, and he's just brings such a physicality to the featherweight division. But listen, man, it's very unfortunate. The fight game is so brutal, and Sodiq's been riddled with insane injuries. Like I'm talking about like back and spinal type shit. Whereas if you heard his interview today on Media Day, he was talking about how, he held off on the back surgery, meaning that there's still a fucking back surgery on the table. Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like, the problems are not fixed is what I'm saying here. And you just don't see that same aura and that same confidence that he once had. And the way I kind of view this fight going down is that I think, so in addition to the spine stuff, he also dealt with the long COVID symptoms. I'm not talking about he got like COVID and then got over it. I mean, like, it's, it's unfortunate, but for like a small percentage of people that get sick with that, they have long COVID symptoms, and that fucking destroys
kind of like the Hamzat Chimaev thing where he was out for a couple months.
Exactly. And you even saw it in Sodiq's fight against Edson. Round 1, he looks like the best fighter on planet Earth. Rounds 2 through 5, you're like, wait, what happened? And it's like, and his coach, like between like the 3rd and 4th, between the 4th and 5th, when he had to give him his pep talk, like all the technical advice was out the window. At this point, they were like, you're super Sodiq. Like what's going on? Like his coaches were like losing it. And it kind of reminded me, and you two, please don't kick me off for what I'm about to say, but it kind of reminded me of a fight between BJ Penn and Frankie Edgar. Actually, the first time they fought back when BJ was the champ, right? And so Frankie Edgar is actually, excuse me, this was the second time they fought in Boston. I think it was UFC 118. And so the first time they fought in Abu Dhabi was like a close fight. Some people thought that BJ might have won, but it was a close fight. Could have gone either way, whatever. I kind of thought Frankie won, but they had to do a rematch. So they do the rematch, and in the rematch, Frankie just 50-45s him, blows him out the water. But in between rounds, I think it was in between the third and fourth, or between the fourth and fifth, like Jason Perillo, the coach of BJ Penn, it was like Lloyd Irvin in Sodiq's corner, like, you're super Sodiq. So, but it was a little different with Jason Perillo. He was like fucking losing his patience. He's like, go get that little cocksucker. Like that's what he said. I was like, damn, like that's where they were at, bro. There was no more, hey, set up your jab, hit this feint, or do this, do that. You know, it was go get that little cocksucker. Like that's how desperate they were. And that's, yeah. So Sodiq, I think this is honestly my prediction of the fight, not just in terms of a pick, but in how I actually think it's going to go down, Scrap. I think that Sodiq is going to go on a Cody Garbrandt kill or be killed mission, like Cody Garbrandt went on against Pedro Munoz, where he's going to come after him in that first minute and try to take Mairon Santos' head clean off. But he's going to sell out for that first round finish. So if that doesn't happen, he either is going to get knocked out himself, because Mairon Santos has some very sharp counters, not to mention Sodiq Yusuff gets dropped or wobbled in every single fight. His recoverability is amazing, but he still gets hurt. And now that he's, you know, not as hungry as he once was, and he's dealing with all those injuries, the chin meter is starting to, you know, diminish a bit. Don't be surprised if Mairon Santos comes out here with some sharp counters. And we can talk about the Francis Marshall fight. And yeah, not that I agreed with that decision, but that was a different situation. Francis Marshall's a young, hungry kid trying to make a name for himself. And also there was a big threat of a takedown there, which may have made Mairon a little, you know, not as, you know, ready for Marshall striking. And let me say this, Marshall's got some underrated pop. Whereas here, you know damn well that Mairon is training for Sodiq to come right at him. And Myron's got like a long history in kickboxing and Muay Thai, even before he came to the UFC, and he's 24. His takedown defense is getting better. I just think where they're at, Myron's trending up, Sodiq's trending down. Give me Mairon Santos to come out here and get the biggest win of his career against Super Sodiq Yusuff, who I'm a big fan of.
Yeah, I honestly, I agree too with this one again. Sorry to agree for the third fight in a row, but
it's okay. You know, I want you to tell the truth. I don't want you to agree or disagree for the sake of doing it.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, you know, you said he might come out guns blazing, and that's exactly what he did against Diego Lopez. Obviously, that didn't go too well. He got knocked out there. Was at 300, and yeah, like you said, Francis Marshall is a very good opponent, and a close decision with him is not a bad look at all. Mairon Santos is a younger guy. Sodiq Yusuff's only 31, which not washed by any means, but like you said, he's been chinned his last couple fights. He's always getting hurt. Excuse me. And Edson Barboza, the version he lost to, was no prime Edson. That was a washed Edson Barboza, and he gassed out quick. So if this fight gets out of the first round, I think it's going to be real rough for Sodiq Yusuff. I think Mairon Santos by decision, maybe even by second round finish, would not be a bad pick at all.
Now, next up in the middleweight division, we got a matchup between Nursultan Ruziboev. He's 35-9-2, taking on Dustin Stoltzfus, who's 16-6. Currently, they got it. Ruziboev minus 280. The comeback on Stoltzfus is plus 240. I mean, I think we both know where both these guys want to keep this fight. I mean, Ruziboev, that right hand is disgusting, man. And real quick on that topic, man, just off the top of your head, right? Like this guy's got 35 wins. Okay, out of those 35 wins, how many of them do you think were decision wins out of the 35 wins?
Ruziboev.
Just guess. Just throw out a number. Fuck it. Just throw out a number.
30 decision wins. Maybe that's too high.
No. I'm saying Ruziboev has 35 wins on his record, right? How many
Yeah,
of those 35 wins are decisions?
I'd say like 30, 25.
No, like it's the opposite. This guy's like
Opposite.
has this guy has 33 finishes and 2 decisions.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I just saw his fight with Buckley. He fought Buckley, correct?
Yeah.
And that was kind of from that fight, I didn't see him as too much of a finisher. I'll be honest, that was the first fight I watched of his, so
Okay.
I was
So
pretty well
you're not
versed on him.
you're not too familiar with him, is what you're saying.
No, to be
Okay.
honest, I'm not
Now
gonna
you
act like I watched his
No, of
earlier.
course. Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate the honesty. So let me tell you. So Ruziboev, he's like 6'5", 6'6". He's got a disgusting right hand, and he's got 33 finishes on his record. But where he struggles is, when people are able to take him down, which is what makes this interesting, because Stoltzfus, black belt in jiu-jitsu. And when this guy's the underdog, well, he's the underdog every single fight. So maybe I should take that back. But sometimes when you sleep on this guy, he'll come out there and really surprise you, whether it was, the way he choked that Puna Haley Soriano, the knockout of Marc-Andre Barrios. Like, his fights are chaotic. So are you familiar with Stoltzfus?
Yeah, I've watched a few of his fights. The Barrios one I watched.
Yeah. So what do you think? So you got a 6'5" guy that wants to land a piston right hand, taking on, an actual middleweight, but this guy is kind of chinny, but he can grapple his ass off.
Yeah. So first off, 6'5" when you're going against a grappler is always going to be a huge disadvantage. Being that tall, trying to defend takedowns, you just got a far longer way to sprawl. And on top of that, Stoltzfus does have some decent striking that Ruziboev can't sleep on. And like you said, he has a black belt. He has a good pedigree on the ground. Overall, he's the more well-rounded fighter and the more complete mixed martial artist. And Ruziboev certainly has that one-punch potential. But I think Stoltzfus at plus 240 is not a bad pick at all. I think that might be a smart pick, in fact.
Okay. We got a little bold underdog prediction. I like it. I mean, the path is there. Let's just see if he follows it. I'm gonna go on the opposite side, but I agree with you in the sense that it's a dog or pass situation. Like, I ain't laying no minus 300 when a guy clearly has a big deficiency on the mat. And you know how I mentioned how he's got 33 finishes on his record, right? Let me tell you what his record is when fights go to decision: 2-7. Right. So to the knockout, he's won 13 fights by knockout. He's only lost 1 by knockout. 13-1 into the knockout. 20-1 to the sub. He's submitted 20 dudes, only been subbed once, but to the decision, 2-7. That being said, I think Stoltzfus has a chance for a decision or a sub, but there's also a chance he gets slept. I'm a lean towards Ruziboev, but I think dog or pass at these odds. Now, next up in the featherweight division, we got a matchup between Julian Erosa. He's 31-11, taking on Melquizael Costa, who's 23-7. Currently, they got it Melquizael Costa minus 175. The comeback on Erosa is plus 150. So I gotta admit, I've been very impressed recently with Melquizael Costa. I was not at all when he first came into the UFC. Reason being is this: he came into the UFC with a lot of experience, which I like. I love it. When a guy's not 5-0 trying to, cut his teeth in the UFC. I like it when a guy comes in here and has been battle tested, paid his dues, and is ready to be thrown into the mix, like Dana likes to say. But, at first, he still had to get his feet wet in the UFC, but now I think he's starting to come into his own. And these last 2 performances, I've been really happy with. Got Feely out of there very quickly, which only really good dudes do. And then the next one against Christian Rodriguez, you cannot understate the fact that not only did he win a decision against, like a cardio machine, but he did it in Mexico City elevation. And if people's big criticism of that fight is that Costa gassed in round 3 in Mexico City elevation against the cardio machine in a fight he won, I don't think that's that big of a deal. And Erosa, listen, man, such a grizzled vet, such a seasoned fighter. You love to see him, but here's how his fights go down. He either gets knocked the fuck out in round 1. He literally gets dropped in round 1 every single fight. But if you do not finish Erosa when you hurt him, you're screwed. So you must, if you drop this guy, you got to go out there and finish the deal. Because if not, he's going to come back like the boogeyman in a zombie state and put it on you. But that being said, I think Costa's current form, the momentum's on his side. I think he knows the game plan here, which, like, normally he's more of like a kicker and stuff. don't be surprised when Costa comes out here and goes headhunting against Julian Erosa. Everyone knows the blueprint on how to beat Julian Erosa. To beat him, you must knock him the you-know-what out. He's been knocked out 7 to 10 times. I believe that total adds Saturday night. I think Costa's going to come out here and knock out Julian Erosa in the first round.
I totally agree. I think Costa has been looking increasingly better in his past couple fights, and I think this is a super easy pick. You know, Erosa, he looked great against Darren Elkins in his last fight, of course, but I just think Costa, you know, Christian Rodriguez is such a tough opponent. He was the first one to beat Raul Rosas Jr., obviously. Apparently he has an advantage over UFC newcomers, which Costa was not. So Costa was able to get the win there. But yeah, Costa, I agree. He didn't look too good in the beginning of his career, but in the past couple fights, he's definitely leveled up, and he's only going to be getting closer to his prime. Erosa's 35, only leaving his prime. So I think Costa is a very safe pick here. And I think 175 is actually a pretty good line to play.
Now, next up in the lightweight division, we got a matchup between UFC newcomer Matheus Camilo. He's 9-2, taking on Gabe Green, who's 11-5. Currently, they got it Camilo -225. The comeback on Gabe Green is +190. So Camilo is actually a training partner of Mairon Santos, who we talked about earlier. And it's pretty cool, man. Like, both these guys left Brazil. They came to the States, and like they were like washing cars to make money. They were like being dog walkers, like legit dog walkers and stuff like that. And yeah, if you hear about the story, it's pretty cool. And now they're both in the UFC and they're fighting together on the card. You love to see stuff like that. And just, you got to respect guys that leave their comfort zone in Brazil, come to the United States where they have to learn the language and, you know, the training, you know, the training's on a different level here. You got to level up, and you love to see stuff like that. So, cause like Matheus Camilo, he's got some embarrassing losses, man. I mean, like he got tapped out by my weed dealer. There was a white dude with dreadlocks that submitted this guy in like the first round. I was like, oh my God, like, can I buy an eighth after the fight? But like, bro, I was like very surprised, but I want to give him credit because Buddy was 21 at the time, right? You know, you're allowed to pull stunts at an age like that so early in your career. And the big question is, how do you bounce back from that? Like, you know, what do you do your subsequent fights? And I love what I've seen in his subsequent fights. You know, he's mature, big calf kicks, kind of on the lower output side, but when he strikes, he makes it count. And also, one thing that's really developed in his game is his get-up game. That last fight, you know, remember that kid that was at that press conference that asked Dana? He's like, Dana, yeah, he was like, Dana, I 8-0, give me a chance, this and that, you know. And Dana gave him a chance against this kid Camilo. And Camilo goes out there and beats the guy. And so the guy, you know, that was like, Dana, I 8-0, give me, you know, that guy was from Tajikistan, so he's like more like into like the grappling heavy style. So he was taking out Camilo, but dude, Camilo's get-ups were beautiful. He put his feet on the hips and make him explode like 5 feet and then just get right back up and then get back to kind of like Jose Aldo-esque combos, you know, hook to the liver, right leg kick, you know, those traditional Muay Thai combinations and whatnot. So he's got good Thai. And then on the other side with Green, so he's dropping to 155 pounds, and at his best, he's got great volume. He's not an athletic guy. He's not, you know, your traditional athlete, but he's a tough guy. You have to be tough when you're not athletically gifted. But I'm not sure if he's fully into it anymore, you know? Like, bro, also, let me say this. I paid -150 on Ian Gary against Gabe Green. Now I got to pay -225 on an unproven guy. That being said, the unproven guy might still come out here and starch him, but I'm just saying, I remember the days when I got -150 on Ian Gary against, you know, this guy. But I was at Gabe Green's last fight against Brian Battle in either South Carolina, North Carolina. I don't remember, but shout out to my boy Dan for hooking me up with those ticks. You know, I did not forget that, my man. But it was like the third fight of the night or something. And you know, these UFC events with all these casuals, they don't show up for the prelims or whatnot. But this was like, yeah, but this was like Brian Battle's like hometown. So like people showed up early, bro. It was deafening when he starched Gabe Green. Like I had to like cover my ears. I was about to go deaf. Like, yeah. So now taking 2 years off, and I hear he's gotten really involved in you know, in like religion and stuff and like Christianity, which like, and do you, bro, like do what's best for you. But the reason I bring that up is because with certain guys, that can like elevate them to new heights. Like you see, like when Vitor Belfort got crazy on, you know, that, like, bro, his run was insane. But then you look at a guy like Rory McDonald, and like when he found God, it completely softened him up. So I'm just curious which one of those two Gabe Green falls under. But I think that Gabe Green has more volume, but Camilo has the harder shots. I'm gonna lean with Camilo here, but it's tough for me to really, you know, predict it accurately when I don't know what Gabe Green's going to look like at 55 off the 2-year layoff. Is he still hungry? So give me Camilo here.
Yeah, well, I don't think Gabe Green dropping down is really going to give him an advantage, especially when he's going against someone like Camilo who does have good grappling. And then Gabe Green's his best is the feet, correct? You'd say striking is his main thing.
Gabe Green?
Yeah.
Yeah, like volume striking.
Yeah. And I mean, dropping a weight class isn't going to improve that all too much. And usually the lower that you go in weight class, the more technique there is. So that's going to be another disadvantage. Yeah, Gabe Green's been knocked out multiple times. You said Camilo has good scrambles up to the top. So even if he does somehow get taken down, you shouldn't have to worry about that. But similar to the last fight we just talked about with the Ruziboev, I think Camilo is going to be very well-rounded, similar to Stoltzfus, and I think he's going to be able to get it done on that token.
Now, next up in the lightweight division, we got a matchup between Jared Flash Gordon, he's 20-7, taking on Thiago Moises, who's 19-8 currently. They got it. Jared Gordon -115, Thiago Moises -105. Obviously, two battle-tested veterans, a little bit of an age gap. You know, my boy Jared Gordon, about 36, and Thiago Moises, he's 30, but he's not a young 30, right? He's got a lot of mileage. How do you kind of see it going down? Because like I kind of view it as Moises, big calf kicks, big hooks, black belt in jiu-jitsu, but kind of like fights at a lower measured pace, whereas Jared Gordon, maybe not as much power, but damn, does he have a motor, can push a pace, and he gave Paddy Pimblett his toughest UFC fight to date. So yeah, this should be a great one. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I feel like Jared might be one of those guys where even when he does get older, he can still win a couple fights. You know, he just has a pretty gritty style. But then you got Moises, who went the distance with Islam Makhachev, I believe.
No, he got choked out in the 4th round. But what he did do, what he did do was he took down Islam Makhachev.
Oh, all right. I knew he did something. I must have forgot what it was, but regardless, like he's definitely a solid grappler if you're taking down Islam. And Jared Gordon's grappling isn't bad either, but he is 36, and while I don't think he's going to be super washed, and Moises definitely has a lot of miles on him, I still think Moises is going to have the speed advantage despite Jared Gordon being the Flash. And I just think Moises is going to get it done. He's a younger guy. How do you know how their last fights went?
Yeah, Moises won that decision against Trey Ogden, where Trey Ogden was winning the fight in the 1st round, and then he tore his bicep in the 2nd round, and Moises took over, won the next 2 rounds. And then Gordon, was it the fight he got robbed against Nasrat, or has he fought since then? Let me double check. Yeah, it was the Nasrat fight where he got robbed, and prior to that, he knocked Mark Madsen out badly.
This one's hard. This one's kind of hard.
Trust your gut, bro. You said Moises.
Yeah, I'll go Moises then. First instinct, gut feeling.
Yes, sir. I mean, it's usually always right. But I'm going to go on the opposite side, but not confidently, because the age does kind of concern me, not in the sense that, like, I think Jared Gordon is, you know, considering retire. Like, I don't think Jared Gordon's mindset is where, like, Sodiq Yusuff's mindset is right now. But what I do think is that one day you show up and you're not looking in your current form when you're 36, 37, and you just don't know when that day is going to be. And you got an experienced 30-year-old, but that experienced 30-year-old, like I said, he fights at half the pace, and he gets, I got to say, he's been tougher in recent fights. In the past, he'd get discouraged very easily. You should watch that Beneil Dariush fight, amongst other fights. Even the Michael Johnson fight he won, like the first 5+ minutes were super ugly. But ultimately, I think if it goes the distance, the reason I think Jared wins is I think that he doubles him up on strikes, just on pure output, assuming that, like, Moises doesn't like steal around with a big knockdown, like drop him with a calf kick or, big blast double and hold him down for like the last minute. Assuming those kind of things don't happen, I see Jared Gordon kind of doubling up Moises on strikes and fighting at double the pace. So for that reason, I'm going to pick Jared Gordon via decision here. Now, next up in the featherweight division, we got a matchup between Connor Matheus. He's 7-3, taking on Yadier DelValle, who's 8-0, repping Cuba. Currently, they got it. Yadier DelValle minus 430. The comeback on Connor Matheus is plus 330. So on Monday, I do like an early look, kind of like, looking at the card before I've done any of my research, just to give some like preliminary thoughts and stuff like that. And I do it solo and stuff like that. So, some of the fans prefer to hear me talk solo and some prefer, me to go back and forth with the guests. So now y'all get the best of both worlds. But when I broke it down Monday, I hadn't watched tape on DelValle yet, so I didn't remember who he was. Let me tell you something right now. I remember exactly who this guy was now, man. This guy fight. You want to talk about fighting at a pace? This guy pushes a pace, and he's got good experience outside the UFC. He beat that guy Michael Aswell, who was he the kid that fought Bogdan Grad on Contender Series? They had that great fight. Was it Aswell and Grad? Let me just double check that. It was Aswell and Grad, right? There's no way it wasn't. Yeah, it was that fight. Okay, so yeah, Bogdan Grad, Michael Aswell, they had that great fight. Yadier DelValle beat this Aswell guy as well. Comes on Contender Series, fights an 18-4 season jacked Brazilian. And man, he put it on him, dude. Like he really put it on him. And like there were spots where it looked like he was going to get the finish on multiple occasions, but credit to his opponent. Like I said, over 20 pro fights, was seasoned and experienced enough to survive in those spots. And Yadier didn't lose his composure one bit. He just kept pouring on that pace and pressure. And if you hear about his story, apparently this guy runs a food truck and like goes in, prepares all the stuff, goes and trains for 2 hours, comes back. Like, yeah, you just got to root for guys like that. He's hungry. And on the other side with Connor Matheus, you got to respect him too. Don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty damn sure he's a U.S. military vet. So thank you for your service, Connor. But I think that he's a solid regional level fighter. Like I think he could headline an LFA main event or something, but at the UFC level, I just don't see it translating, man. I don't think he's got too many options when throwing hands and being a Boston brawler doesn't work. You know what's funny about it though, Scrap? On Contender Series, when he fought that Brazilian kid, I was like, oh yeah, I'm betting this Brazilian kid. And that's the one time, of course, Connor Matheus goes out there and wins. I was like, oh my God. But that being said, man, I think DelValle brutes this guy and pushes a serious pace on him. So I'm gonna go DelValle here.
Yeah, well, in all reality, I'm not too familiar with either of these guys. Just being realistic, so I can't go too in depth. But I will say that DelValle is the younger guy, and the odds are the way they are for a reason. I believe clearly Vegas sees a huge technical advantage in him. And from what you said about Matheus, I don't think he sounds too promising to be DelValle. So I think you just got to go with him. Probably put him in a parlay, or that's what I got to go with.
Yes, sir. So next up in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Luana Santos. She's 8-2, taking on Tainara Lisboa, who's 7-2. Currently, they got it. Luana Santos minus 170. The comeback on Tainara Lisboa plus 145. So Brazil versus Brazil. Anytime you have a Brazil versus Brazil fight, there's only two ways it can go. The first way is they show each other ultimate respect because, Brazilians want to only see Brazilians win. You know what I'm saying? So there might be ultimate respect, or the way they show each other ultimate respect is by beating the ever-loving shit out of each other and like coming in at like their top form. So it's going to be one or the other. But with these two, I suspect it to be more of the latter, where like if you've seen these two girls fight, they're this Luana Santos girl, like the technique might not be the prettiest, but like she's a bully in there, and like she's physical and she's got heart, man. She's got a dog. Like I like Luana Santos. Obviously, she's got to clean up some things with the technique, but as far as the physicality, it's there in spades. But on the other side, with Lisboa, it's like the opposite. With Lisboa, I think the technique is really on point. Like I think like if they're gonna stand in the pocket, the sharp counters of Lisboa it's going to be night and day. Kind of like if you watched that fight between Juliana Miller and Santos, right, where Santos standing TKO'd her in the first round, like beautiful. I'm not gonna say beautiful, but great TKO. But like if you actually watch like the technique of those punches, like I was like, dude, am I watching like a domestic dispute at a 7-Eleven or like what's going on here, you know? And if she gets into striking exchanges like that with Lisboa, I'm telling you right here, right now, in half the battle scrap, that might not end up well for her. But where I do think that Santos has an edge is pinning her up against the fence, possibly getting some top control. But I do want to give Lisboa credit, even though she lost that last round, you know, so she won the first 2 rounds her last fight, loses that last round and kind of gets held down for a little bit, and that cost her the round. Now she did end up getting back up and in fact securing a takedown of her own in the 3rd round, but it was too little too late. So on one hand, yeah, it sucked that, you know, she lost that round, but on the other hand, even though she lost that round, I still saw urgency. I still saw her get back up and her end the round on top. So I think that this is a dog or pass situation, because this is one where like I'm going back and forth. And if we're going to flip a coin, you know, heads and tails, I think we got to give tails to Luana. She got the bigger tail. We're going to give heads to Lisboa. Let's see what we got. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So for a pure pick, we're going tails with Luana, but from a betting perspective, I actually think I might consider coming out here and taking a shot on Lisboa. So fuck it. Fuck what the coin said. I'm gonna go with Lisboa here. Who you got?
Well, I was gonna try to be different because I was gonna think of the Lisboa the whole time. But it's funny you do the coin thing because I did the exact same thing on one of my breakouts for a WMA fight. I just grabbed the coin nearby and flipped it. But Lisboa, she's on a 3-fight win streak, and Santos is coming off a loss, I believe. Is that correct?
Sorry, one more time. Santos, you said?
Yeah.
To Casey O'Neill, and she got properly schooled in that fight too.
Yeah. So, you know, Santos has good judo and decent submissions, but Lisboa has very solid striking, the 7-11 striking, and I think Lisboa is a great dog pick, to be honest. She's also mid-30s, Lisboa. I think she's going to have the physical advantage too, be bigger in there. So I think Lisboa is a great pick.
Now, before we talk about the next fight, I just got to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Bet105. Which book has -105 odds on all major sports, no KYC, and some of the fastest and easiest payouts in the industry? That's right, Bet105. This weekend for UFC Vegas 106, my friends at Bet105 got a special offer for you. So if you're looking to parlay the 2 favorites in the main and the co-main event, I'm talking about Michael Morales and Rodolfo Bellato. So currently, if you parlay them, it's slightly under -300. But Bet105 are going to knock 20% off of that, and now you can parlay them for slightly under -250. Now add a 3rd leg to that, and you might be looking at a nice return. So definitely take advantage of that. Also, we talk about it every single week, and we're going to keep talking about it. That's right, split decision insurance. My friends, last week, if you bet on Iwan Cutelaba, you got completely screwed. I mean, I have no idea how they scored that from Modestas Bukauskas. Now, if you bet on Cutelaba with Bet105, listen, it sucks that you're not going to get your win, but at least you're going to get 25% back. Hey, that's better than nothing, especially with the current state of judging. You don't know if Adelaide Bird is going to be on her phone, if Chris Lee is the deciding judge, what side of the bed this idiot Ron McCarthy woke up on. You just don't know. So at least going into these precarious split decisions, at least guarantee me 25% of my money back. That sounds pretty good, right? So guys, make sure you go to bet105.ag, use my promo code half the battle, deposit $100 and get $50 in free bets at bet105.ag using my promo code half the battle. Now let's get back to the show. Hey, Bet105, that was a pretty fucking good ad, right? Come on now. Yeah. Come on now.
I love that you added the Cutelaba thing in, because when I saw that decision, I didn't know what to think. 30-27 for God, what was his name that he fought?
Bukauskas.
Bukauskas. Yeah. I predicted bro, why am I blanking?
You predicted Cutelaba to win, I'm sure.
I predicted Cutelaba to win. You know, I thought he was a pretty safe pick. And then the whole fight I'm watching, I was like, all right, got this one right. Go to the scorecards, 30-27 Bukowskis. I had no clue what was going on, but the fact that they have insurance for stuff like that is that's a very good feature. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
Take advantage, my friends. Use my code half the battle. Now, next up in the strawweight division, we got a matchup between Denise Gomes. She's 10-3, taking on Elise Reed, who's 8-4. You know, it's funny. Her name is Denise, so I was about to say Elise. Thank God I didn't. Currently, they got it. Denise Gomes minus 550. The comeback on Elise Reed is plus 400. Scrap. You know what I like about Denise Gomes? You don't often see in women's MMA, let alone in the strawweight division. We're talking about 115 pounds. Like, this girl's coming out here, man. I mean, we're talking about multiple knockouts. Yasmin Iragui in 20 seconds, Bruna Brazil in that second round. And now, you know, she had to take a setback against Angela Hill, who's like got the most fights in the history of that division, right? Probably the most fights in the history of women's MMA. I mean, I think I have to be right about that, right? Someone let me know. But either way, a seasoned vet is what I was trying to say. But since that point, she comes back out there and she's no longer a KO or bust fighter. Now she's going out there winning decisions. She's starting to feel more comfortable inside the octagon. I like what I've seen with Elise Reed. I gotta admit, I've never been the biggest fan of Elise Reed. You know, it's always been a win one, lose one, win one, lose one. But you want to know something hilarious? You know who Elise Reed has a win over on her record? Just guess off the top of your head. This girl fought last week and she's like a top contender. From Canada.
Oh, Juliana Miller.
No, I said a top contender. I'm not talking about no fucking 3-3 fighter.
Dude, I don't study WMA, bro.
Did you not see Jasmine Jastovicius choke out Jessica Andrade?
Yeah, she finished her in the first round.
Exactly.
She was from Canada. I'm not gonna lie.
Dude, Elise Reed beat Jasmine Jastovicius by split decision in 2020. So no matter what, because like I can see Jasmine one win away from like a title shot or something. So no matter what happens, Elise Reed, you will always have that win on your record. And she beat my girl Julian DeCursey, which is cool. She follows me on Twitter. But listen, guys, Elise Reed, I feel like the takedown defense, it got better the last fight, but she was fighting a 40-year-old opponent. But it's always kind of been, you know, striking with no takedown defense, and the striking is kind of underwhelming. Whereas with Denise Gomes, there's nothing underwhelming about her whatsoever. It's minus 550. I'm not breaking ground. Give me the more intimidating, imposing fighter here.
Yeah, I think Gomez looks like she'd steal my lunch money. She looks more manly than me, I think, but I think just off the eye test, you can go with Gomez. You can look at the odds, go with Gomez, and just their last couple fights. Gomez is on a 2-fight winning streak. And obviously Reed 50-50. I think this is a pretty easy one. Like, it should be a lock.
Yes, sir. Now, next up in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between Hyung Sung Park. He's 9-0, taking on Carlos Hernandez, who's 10-4. Currently, they got it. Hyung Sung Park minus 170. The comeback on Hernandez plus 145. Dude, Carlos Hernandez's last few fights. You ready? So, here we go. Tatsuro Taira, Ray Saruya, Tumen Dembarov, Hyung Sung Park. Is there a reason that they're giving him all the Asian prospects? Like, is there something they see? So here's my thing with Carlos Hernandez. Obviously, I think he's skilled everywhere. I just don't think that he's got the athletic attributes necessary. Not to like win. Of course, he's won fights and all that. Yeah, he's very skilled. But like the athletic attributes to compete against a top 15 guy or anything like that. Like, I think there's a clear ceiling. But that being said, against these lower level guys, Carlos Hernandez can throw hands. He can scramble. He can wrestle. He can do it all. And on the other side with this kid, Park, you know, he's a scrapper too, man. He's a very tough kid. You know, he's been dropped in a lot of his fights, and he finds a way not just to come back, but to come back and like finish those fights. So you love that quality in a fighter, but when that's happening against lower level competition, you obviously have to question what's going to happen when he's, you know, now we're talking about the UFC kid, you know, and as you start to move up the ranks, you know, getting dropped in every single fight and coming back is not a recipe for success. Not to mention my boy's minus 170 here. That makes it tough too. So with Carlos Hernandez, yeah, I think it's a dog or pass situation. What's holding me back from like planting my flag is that Carlos Hernandez doesn't separate himself. Carlos Hernandez fights close with everyone. And again, while he does have the skills across the board, it's the lack of athleticism and physicality that just is really an issue for me to plant my flag. So listen, I'm gonna pick Carlos Hernandez. I think he's got split decision upside, and if we're talking splits, give me the underdog all day. But am I going to be surprised if he loses a split? Not one bit. I could see this fight going either way, but I think Carlos Hernandez has fought better level of competition, and it's just a straight up better fighter anyways, but fight super close. That's why I'm not that convicted, but still give me Carlos Hernandez here. And if you've never seen Carlos Hernandez versus Daniel Bairez, I know we were talking about Sodiq Yusuff earlier, how, you know, Sodiq Yusuff has the best fight in Contender Series history against Mike Davis. I think the second best fight is Julian Paiva versus Alan Nascimento, but the third best fight in Contender Series history is this man, Carlos Hernandez, against Daniel Bairez. I highly recommend y'all check that out. I'll take Carlos as an underdog pick. You got an opinion on this one?
Well, I do think Park has a better grappling, but then Carlos Hernandez has a better striking. But I also think Hernandez has some solid grappling defense. So I honestly agree with you. I think he'll be able to defend takedowns coming his way. He is coming off a loss, I believe, but he definitely has time to rebound. They're both Park is 29, Hernandez 31, so it should be something like that. But these guys are both in their primes, or at least close. So I think Hernandez is going to be able to come back, rebound after his loss, and get a win here. Just keep it on the feet. And he has just a more technical striking, outpoint him, piece him up, and outdamage him, probably take him to a decision.
Well, he's coming off a win, but that was a close fight, the Tumen Demirel fight. Man, I'm not sure who I thought won that fight, but like it was a hell of a scrap. But he did lose the fight prior to Ray Saruya. And I was actually talking. I was at jiu-jitsu class earlier today, and one of our guys that's a black belt and also like a former wrestler was talking about how like these dudes from Japan are like emerging in the wrestling scene. And
yeah,
now that we're talking about it, we see that Ray Saruya guy, that kid can wrestle his ass off, man. Yeah. So look out for these Japanese wrestlers, man.
You have that Ono kid from Japan too, going to wrestle at Penn State next year.
Yeah, we were talking about him today. Yes, thank you for bringing him up. What's his name again?
No, something Masanuki, something.
Yeah, Masanori. Yeah, but either way, like kid's solid. A fucking badass. That's funny you brought him up. Yeah, he was part of the conversation. Now, next up in the strawweight division, we got a matchup between Luana Pinheiro. She's 11-4, taking on. Well, actually, she's 10-5 because she definitely lost to Randa Marcos. Taking on Tisha Torres, who's 14-7. Currently, they got it. Tisha Torres -320. The comeback on Luana Pinheiro's +265. So obviously, you know, Tisha Torres Pennington, she's been doing this shit a long time, man. And she's like, for never touching the belt, she's a women's MMA pioneer and legend, and like, for like someone that, you know, never even fought for a belt, which is crazy. You would have thought she would, considering the level of competition she's not only faced but beat. You know, she has a win over Rose Namajunas, Carla Esparza, amongst others, right? So you love to see it. And with Pinheiro, I think she's talented. I just don't think that she's got the heart or will when things aren't going her way. Like, I think if she can front run, hit some judo throws, some big kicks, or an arm bar from guard, something like that, then, you know, when they're both fresh and she can make things happen, okay. But once the fight really starts, Tisha Torres has been here so many times. So I get why people would take a shot on Pinheiro, just strictly based on the odds and the fact that like Tisha is probably like a fight or two away from retirement, and also mixed in with the fact that Pinheiro's back is firmly against the wall. Like, she loses here, you know, goodbye. Like, you know, it's over, you know, sayonara, bon voyage. You know what I'm saying, man? But I still lean Tisha, but I'm gonna sit this one out. What you think?
It's too bad I don't have my coin with me here to flip, but
I got one for you. Who's who? Who's heads? Who's tails?
All right, I'll do Pennington heads and Pinheiro tails.
Heads.
Pennington it is.
Okay. Okay.
When it's spoken.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, before we get out of here. Oh, wait, that was wrong. That's wrong. Wrong overlay. Wrong overlay. Before we get out of here, we got to talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. But before we do that, I want to give my boy Scrap a big, big shout out. Guys, this week I had a big guest back out on me for the second time in a row. Then I hit up, guys that are like longtime staples of the show. They all backed out. And then I remembered that I hit my boy up like a while back because Scrap does some good MMA content. It's different from what I do, right? It's more like commentary type stuff. But I was watching a couple of his videos. I was thoroughly entertained. I was like, hey, come break down a fight with me sometime, Like you're young, you're making a name for yourself, and you're killing it on TikTok. You got more followers than me on TikTok, more followers than me on Instagram. Obviously, I got you covered on Twitter and YouTube, but you're gonna work. Yeah. You're gonna work. But I will say this: you got me covered in one of your YouTube videos. Did like 140K views, which I watched. I was like, yeah, I like this. So you know what I'm saying? Big shout out to you for stepping up on 1 day short notice when big names in this industry backed out on me. So. Big respect to you, my man. And I hope all the fans give this guy a follow at Scrap underscore MMA or just Scrap MMA.
Instagram's underscore MMA. YouTube's just Scrap MMA.
Yeah. So big shout out for stepping up on short notice. I know this is out your comfort zone, and you came out here, man, and I appreciate you. But now we got to talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. So one at a time. In your opinion, Scrap, what is the fight to watch at UFC Vegas 106?
Well, I could give the easy answer and say Burns versus
no main event, no co-main event.
That's what I was gonna say. I think Sodiq Yusuff, or is that the co-main?
No, that's featured bout. That's all you, buddy. That's all you, buddy.
I think that fight's gonna be a banger. To be honest, I think someone's gonna be going to sleep, so I'm gonna go. That's gonna be the fight to watch, probably fight of the night. High likelihood.
Yeah, that's a great one for sure. And for me, I'm gonna go with Mairon Santos' friend Camilo that got tapped out by my weed dealer, taking on Gabe Green. Like, dude, this fight is gonna be exciting. Gabe Green brings big volume. He always comes to scrap. I think he's got some Mexican descent, so that fighting is in his DNA. And Camilo, he's been fighting since he was like 19 or some shit. Now he's in the UFC. Like I said, got out his comfort zone in Brazil, is in the United States, really making a name for himself, beat that kid that begged Dana for a shot. Like, hey, that's my fight to watch. But now I got to ask you, Scrap, who is your fighter to watch at UFC Vegas 106?
Outside of the main and co-main?
Of course. Hey, come on, rattle it.
I'm gonna say Costa. He's been looking good in his past couple of fights, and I think he's going to take another step up here. So I think you got to go with Costa. I think he's going to have another great performance.
Yeah, I like that one because he's got the momentum on his side. Big test against Julian Erosa, who, like, if you're not ready for Julian Erosa, he's not gonna hump your legs. He's gonna dangle off your neck or knock you unconscious. So, I love this fight as well. For me, my fighter to watch is Mairon Santos. Kid, you got the biggest opportunity of your career. Like, you've only been in there with Khan awfully, you know what I'm saying? And but the Francis Marshall fight, I know everyone's holding it against you, but it's not your fault. You're not a judge. And Francis Marshall's a young stud making a name for himself too. Like, that was a good prospect showdown. The only reason that people are angry is because it was a big favorite that didn't fight like a big favorite, but there were still moments in that fight where I saw a lot of things I liked. I felt like the first 4 minutes of round one, like, Mairon was styling on him until he got dropped. And then I felt like he kind of started rushing the rest of the fight, wasn't taking his time. But these are the experiences you learn from when you're a 24-year-old kid. And I'm expecting big leaps fight by fight, big maturity fight by fight. And against someone like Sodiq Yusuff, if you don't show up at the top of your ability against Sodiq Yusuff, I mean, even if you do show up at the top of your ability, like, this is, he's been in the top 15 for a hot minute. So let's see how Mairon Santos deals with the biggest test of his UFC career. And for that reason, Mairon Santos is my fighter to watch. Well, my man, Scrap, we did it. It's going down this Saturday night live at the Apex. They can follow you at Scrap_MMA on Instagram, at Scrap MMA on YouTube. Hey, let's get his YouTube numbers up. He's killing TikTok. He's killing Instagram. Let's get his YouTube numbers up. Let's get his Instagram. Let's get his Twitter numbers up. Scrap, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me right here, right now on Half the Battle, stepping up on a day short notice, getting out your comfort zone, and much respect. Any message for the fans?
Hey, first, I want to thank you for the opportunity. Of course, one day notice, like Playboy Cardi said, when the stars align, you better be ready. So, you know, I had to take this opportunity. Great to come on the channel, and to everyone watching, I just want to say thanks for the support, and it should be actually a pretty solid fight card this weekend. I think a lot of the fights will be pretty entertaining.
Absolutely. And to all the fans, thank you all so much for all your support. You truly know how much it means to me. Please smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave me a comment when this is done, share if you feel so inclined. Follow me on Best Fight Picks on Twitter at Half the Battle Pod, on Instagram, and Half the Battle Podcast on TikTok. And my friends, until the next time, let's cash these bets.